is a quiet town where nothing much happens. A solitary town surrounded by natural wonders beyond belief. A small, uncaring town, unaware of spellbinding events happening around it. Are we ever going to make it? The sea is vicious, and its storms are a threat. This life we live bears many shadows, burdens too heavy for man to carry. There are different paths ahead we must experience, many attempts to escape from the dregs of freedom. But is freedom something we want to escape from? We are afraid that we will not make the right decisions. We fear freedom. We are haunted, but what might it be? Death is a safe road where nothing ever happens, where nothing ever changes. And suffering comes to those who remain cowardly still. Is today the day that I'll die? This journey was a self-realization, a symbolic awareness, the envisioning of a limitless future of possibilities. And today, I woke up with 1,000 reasons not to remain ashore. I embarked on an endeavor to meet a daring future, to conquer the unknown, to seek my inner God. I've been drawn to this place before. I guess it is the hypnotic forces from a man only known as Vampiro Negro. A man that managed to bend time and space into infinity. A man that became his higher self, the so-called Son of Man of this precarious town. The contemplation over what propels this town is the mere essence of their daily routines. And that living doesn't seem compelled. Thoughts are incomplete, winds shift, dreams are swallowed by tides, and astral luminous drifts are dragged by vast ancestral casts. Remnants of defeated battles are the foundations of a town that has no memory. Territorial boundaries escalated quickly into warfare. Troops disembarked from combat vessels which stormed through the affluent waters that irrigate the conflict zone. Concealed In high humid temperatures, warriors were captured, flags were torn from their ensign. A quick fight ended ironically between coconut palm trees, the tree of life. All of its entirety sustains human existence. But this evolving tree now casts a shadow, eroded by generations destined to a fiery union with nature. Those spirits now dance macabrely in the fire, and with a hypnotizing sight through the flames, they augur our commonplace in life. Our purpose in life has been controlled by foreign masters. We have submitted our soul for promises of a meaningful existence. We are slaves of necessity. How can we reignite a transformation which casually ignores our unstable illusions of free will? I see the horror in the thought of immortality. There's no exit from this torment. It's all everlasting suffering and pain. I received some leads from the locals to meet a reclusive old man who lives remotely up in the mountains. They told me he might be the only source of information about Vampiro Negro. I drove up to the mountains until my car couldn't go any further. got out and walked through a path in the mountains. There was a loud river to my right. And when I finally arrived at the old man's shack, he gave me a warm welcome, but he didn't even know who I was. I don't think he gets many visitors. Living for years in the jungle has granted him a magical understanding of his surroundings. He chirps the songs of different birds, listens to the shifts in the wind, and acknowledges geomorphic structures of different natural landscapes of the Earth's surface, especially rivers. He lays in his hammock, barefoot, while the coffee starts to boil in his brand new but very dirty gas kitchen that lays on top of an improvised wooden table. He lives in a huge property on top of a hill, just a few steps down to the river. Here, he has grown different fruit trees, medicinal plants, and everything he needs for daily meals. It is his own paradise of freedom. That's all he owns. We are sharing a cup of homemade coffee blended with herbs, and he recalls the stories of Vampiro Negro. But to my surprise, he knows where he used to live.
Se cortó unos huesos, el esqueleto, no estaba la cabeza. La cabeza estaba metida en una cosa. Era el cuerpo ese que estaba.
The old man learned some of the methods Vampiro Negro mastered to achieve the awakening of humanity's real nature. A divine being. I was thrilled and eager to start our expedition, but I tried to hold my excitement as the old man was taking it easy sipping his coffee. So I figured, there's time, it's early, and we have all day. You know, in the jungle, time runs differently, and everything must be done patiently. You cannot rush nature, you know? I just think I must invite uncertainty and strive to take advantage of every moment. This quest has just begun. We started walking into the depths of death, the death of fear. We are now walking upstream on one of the most important rivers of the peninsula, and it's magical as well. The birth of this river dates back to the times of Vampiro Negro, which nowadays is surrounded by one of the most intense ecosystems in the world. Majestic mountains, cliffs hang right above me, and millions of eyes are probably watching us. They hear us with our every step splashing in the water. They made me wonder what we are doing trespassing in this biological passageway. While hundreds of kilometers away, people live their unwitting lives without even realizing that this place puts in motion their daily routines. The old man leads the way. He walks slowly, but his steps are strong and firm. His light eyes absorb the environment, swiftly analyzing all his moves. His senses are wide awake, and his contagious happiness sets him free. For decades, The river has carved its way in through the natural dirt works that surround us. The shadow is welcomed, but the heat and humidity are ceaseless. Not even the cold water that leaks inside our boots seems to cool us off. The old man starts climbing up a dirt wall, and once at the top, he tells me we are almost there. But first, he must introduce the story of Vampiro Negro. The town's great-grandfathers used to tell the story of a man who lived in a cave up in these mountains. But he wasn't an ordinary man. He was an esoteric metaphysician, an alchemist, who dreamed to float ethereally in the original thought above the stars, empowering himself with his own divine energies to access far beyond the boundaries of imagination, entering the realm that meets the coalesce of the human body with the soul. We are now far up in the mountains, going upstream through a small rocky creek where we can see some cave diggings, indicating that others have searched for the entrance of the cave. And although it's not a secret, not many know how to get here, to the dwelling place of Vampiro Negro. Just a few steps further up, we find a large opening in the mountain, a gateway. Through the wind whistling of dozens of bats flying all over us, others are warned about our intrusion, and a few steps further into the cave, dozens more stir up and start flapping all around with their banging and clanging echoes. Deafening sounds of a natural void have witnessed the birth of water, a river that has found its way out, meandering while whispering, carving the walls of this dark grotto surrounding. The old man claims that centuries ago, this is where Vampiro Negro was awakened from slumber by echoes of scheming troglodytes, insects, and organisms that are destined to scrape the mysteries inside the glimmering stellar domes of this cave. We walk deeper into the pitch black. The cool, moist air thickens, and the old man's words stop echoing as the cave gets smaller and smaller inside, until we find a pothole filled with water. The old man starts digging, analyzing the underwater soil while he explains. In his catharsis, Vampiro Negro was after the things of nature, a grand masterpiece through an alchemical quest that would grant him the achievement of gnosis, that's the knowledge and insight of humanity's real nature as a divine being. This transmutation could only be fulfilled through a magical process that involved using the cave's minerals, known only by Vampiro Negro, to have cosmic properties. next morning, I drove back to the town. I felt an urge to explore deeper into where these cave minerals came from, just to realize that these waters have a story, and it begins deep down beneath these depths. Many local fishermen, including my captain, describe a natural phenomenon which takes place around the gulf that lies ahead. I'm now sailing on the Pacific Ocean. Millions of years ago, debris of colliding neutron stars fell from the sky in the form of stardust. A large concentration of the cosmic matter was trapped and melded with the deep oceanic crust. This newly formed bedrock rose from the darkest depths, forging mountains over the surface of the sea. Caves, like the one where Vampiro Negro used to live, is evidence of this crustal deformation. Vampiro Negro knew about the stardust minerals locked within the walls and floor of his cave. These were the perfect ingredients for his transmutation and purification towards enlightenment. But stardust has memory, and Vampiro Negro failed to foresee that the process to reshape his human soul relied only on a precise balance of the elements, which liberated vast amounts of energy. And like the colliding neutron stars, the cave exploded from the inside, generating volcanic eruptions and earthquakes that lasted for centuries. His mortal struggles were no match against an inherently violent, indifferent universe. But his death removed every inner obstacle towards godly wisdom. He would achieve a state of golden humanity and blinding spiritual transcension. Vampiro Negro's blackened eyes cleansed from his solitude, afflictions, and fears. He melded into a single quintessential entity with nature. The explosion blasted away and splattered the cosmic elements into the air, but it also created a stream of water that gave birth to a river that flowed towards where I am right now. The stardust that triggered the explosion precedes the origin of life, and it is now back where it belongs. The local fishermen are convinced that stardust is again leaking through the vents and fissures of this floorbed. Here, the seabed breathes and waits to begin its cycle, to be empowered again with its divine energies. I stop at a beach to get my bearings right and change vessels to a smaller one. Because this is not an ordinary place. This beach has access to the river's mouth, where Vampiro Negro's secrets are to be found. I am now navigating upstream to the place where I first met with the old man. But now I have a different notion of this place. I can better appreciate life on the banks of the river, life beyond the landscape in front of me. A life set to carry the rarest and most dense biodiversity in the world. An impenetrable green jungle of endless mountain ridges with interacting organisms, connected all through fungal highways and networks of cooperation between different species that communicate thanks to the oldest trees that nurtured the youngest ones, transferring insights of distant surroundings. I'm now back where I first met the old man. I anchored the boat to continue upstream by foot. I see him waiting by the river's bank, and as soon as he sees me, he starts singing a song about Vampiro Negro. He cuts the song short and explains that even though the song recalls the myth of Vampiro Negro, it has been reinterpreted over the decades and adapted by a breed of people who lived here centuries after Vampiro Negro's death. We start walking, but promptly the old man stops and notices that the rocks and Earth's conditions are prime. He probes the sediments underwater, just like he did before inside the cave. On his request, we proceed to extract boulders and rocks from underneath to extract deeper sediments, and with basic instruments, we allow the stream to filter out the lighter elements. He is searching the minerals of Vampiro Negro. He wants to show me what stardust looks like and how it shimmers like gold. The origin of gold is a supreme process in nature. Gold is the seed of all creation. Somehow, I started to suspect that the old man was a mystery himself. And at moments, I thought to myself that maybe he was Vampiro Negro, but I just think it's because of my empathy towards the old man. But he is not Vampiro Negro. The myth was real. It was hard to leave the realm that now is sheltered by the old man. But his insights and knowledge took me further up in the mountains. A new era came in the peninsula, where every man was digging for gold, and the land was so rich that it could be extracted from the surface of the riverbed, just with minimum effort. And soon, a gold rush began, and the town where I first arrived was built. Very few settled here, because most of them were nomads, looking for gold in places far upriver towards the mountains. These frontiersmen were prisoners and convicts, brought by the authorities in ships and ditched in this merciless jungle. They were trapped, but they had to survive by any means. Hunting, fishing, and learning from nature, they managed to create a new way of life. It is said that some of these men learned about Vampiro Negro from the indigenous peoples that were hiding from slavery in the mountains. Through songs and new legends, these outlaws created their own stories about Vampiro Negro. And rumors tell that he was a fugitive who escaped from Cuba and became a folktale between the gold mining pioneers. They call him a black vampire because he digged gold exclusively at night. Some of them claim knowing Vampiro Negro, and others believe they saw him wearing a black hat, playing the guitar, and singing the song that the old man scarcely remembered.
Yo soy el vampiro negro, para que me puedan ver. Allí en el cementerio, allí no va cualquiera, porque yo soy el vampiro negro, para que me puedan ver. El día de mi cumpleaños me regalaron un cadáver para que le sacara los ojos y le chupara la sangre, porque yo soy el vampiro negro, para que me puedan ver. Mi padre es San Cristóbal, mi hermano Nacional, mi hermano el hombre lobo y mi primo el Satanás, porque yo soy el vampiro negro, para que me puedan ver. Sunde, sunde, sundam, sunde, 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 sundanga, sunde, 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 sunde.
This new strain of nomads was called coligalleros, and they lived freely with their self-made laws and simple lifestyles, surrounded by the magical realm that Vampiro Negro had created many centuries ago. life was good, and the very same process of seeking gold was every man's journey to learn how to live without fear and search for the inner truth that enlightens the path towards freedom, to live every day with adventure and excitement. Now, I can understand in greater depth the esoteric knowledge of Vampiro Negro. It is buried underground, waiting to be found by those courageous enough who aim for a purpose in their existence. Those who are woken by the sparks of curiosity will appreciate that freedom lies in being bold and true to oneself. The spiritual truth hides in the dark. It's within ourselves to find the intangible through the ember of mythology and imagination. Live without fear and start living the true human experience, a coalesce of the human body and soul, the godly wisdom. Today is the day that we die.
I'm the black vampire. Meet me at my home. very close to my heart. All her blood I sucked up. I'm the black vampire. Meet me at my home. Bring your blood with you. I will drink it through at the graveyard, Stone 22. My father